99 bags of soil in my pocket, 99 bags of soil. We take one out, we place it down, 98 bags of soil in my pocket. Yeah, okay, so I decided to do something a little bit wappy. And it's because of a video by Guardian Oz Gaming that's linked up in the top over here. We're going to look at trying to build the biggest farm that we can possibly build on one Scrap Mechanic world tile. What that means is we're trying to get the biggest farm that we can get so we only have one raid clock, so we only get one raid timer. The only problem with that is it's 85 soil plots long by 85 soil plots wide. The reason why it's 85 soil plots is because that's how many times a soil plot is 3 and a world tile is 256 blocks wide kind of thing. So if you do 86 you sort of go over. So by having 85 soil plots long and 85 soil plots wide, that means that we will be growing a grand total of 7,225 crops. Look at the size of this thing. Now, I won't lie to you guys, it was a little bit tricky to try and sort of work out how this was. So we used a few world markers in the road to try and gauge just exactly where the tile starts and finishes. The only problem is I'm not too sure of how far sort of back we go towards the rock in this direction. So what I've had to do is throw a load of soil down, and I'm now just placing a load of crops in the corners in the hope that I can force a raid timer. And if I do force a raid timer, this will help me work out if or where I need to tweak the soil, basically. So as you see, we've got one raid time already, so we're looking good so far. If I get another one in this corner, it kind of means that yeah, we're overhanging a little bit. So I just kind of got to bulk it up just in case I'm not 100% got enough crops in the second tile. So I'm going to kind of run backwards and forwards a bit and fill some crops in and just basically make these corners grow so that I should have over enough time. And then there we go, right? So we've got our second raid timer. So what this is telling me here is somewhere along that left-hand side, I need to take some rows out because that's what seems to have forced the raid timer. So I might need to take one or two of these rows out. So what we'll do is we'll take a couple of the rows out here and we'll put them at the other side, just so that we get those 85 by 85 plots still. It's going to be a long old process, so I won't bore you with it. In the end, it needed us to remove 3 rows from this side and put them at the front. I've already put them at the front just when I worked out that we needed 3, so we're just going to move them off the back. Now, I guess we're going to start with the water. Just a trigger warning for some people, we are going to be using dev commands and we are going to be using mods in order to do this. If you want to do this vanilla, feel free. It is going to be huge. It's difficult. So water stores in blocks of 20. These containers hold 256 sets, so that is 5,120 splashes of water that we're going to put. Obviously that's not enough when we've got 7,225, so we'll get a couple of these containers set up so that we can carry ourselves enough water to water the entire field. As well, it helps us if we can store the water so that we're not trying to pump directly from the sea straight to the water splashy things. Now, I don't know what the flow value is for a vacuum pump, but we're going to throw a load of these 6-way tubes down just so we can cram quite a lot of them in. We'll also be able to fit in a load of those transfer tubes on here so that we can constantly have a decent flow of water. With over 7,000 plots to keep wet, I don't honestly know how the transfer speed of these things will work. So obviously I want to try and keep my tanks topped up as much as I can. We're going to color coordinate everything. For my water, I obviously want to keep it a nice blue. Don't forget those wireless transfer stuff, these old vacuum teleportation tube things, need to be color coordinated in order so that it knows where it's sending to and from. So that'll help us out here. Plus, when it comes to trying to differentiate between what's water, what's seeds, and what is fruit and veggies, etc., the colors will help it and it should make it look a little bit better. So as you can see, with a 6-way tube in, it allows us to put a lot of these vacuum pumps down. A quick calculation, by the time that we've filled all the available slots for it, we're going to have approximately, pretty much on the nose of actually, 18 vacuum pumps. So this is near enough going to fill us one entire block in the chest in one pump. So I think it works out to be almost 20 water per second, which hopefully is a decent flow rate. Bearing in mind I am pretty much going to be watering 85 every time a sensor passes a block or something. So it might be enough to keep the tanks topped up. Hopefully that'll like make a difference between the flow that we're going to use and what's coming out of the tanks, what's going in the tanks. the tanks should never be empty. I've got a couple of tanks. I've got over 10,000 storage for water, and I only need 7,000 water to keep the crops nice and wet. So this should work, and it should be good. So with all 18 of the vacuum pumps connected up, we're going to throw the switch on this, and we're going to check in the chest to see what we're pulling in. Hopefully it's all right. I know that we're using 18 vacuum pumps, but it's also the flow rate of the transport tube things. And it seems to look good. It's about 17, so that's all right. That'll get us through what we need to do, I think. As long as it keeps these things filled up, we should be all right. Now, one last thing that I want to do before I actually get started is I want to work out the levels of this field. This will help me determine how I'm going to do stuff. If I want to do a suspended machinery thing over the top, I need to work out, you know, if there's a sort of an angle or a slope on the field so that I can build it high enough so that it will cover both areas. Literally, all I'm going to do is just drag a couple of rows of blocks around the field and see what happens. Looking at it, looks pretty good, looks pretty flat, but I suppose when we've finished running the board around it, we'll actually see where we're at. Okay, so looking at this, it's not looking great. Two sides, the top one that you can see up there and this one, they're already about a block difference. So the top one that we did first was 2 blocks high. By the time we get to the end on this one, we've come down from 2 blocks to 1 block to kind of keep it level with the land. So there is a slight deviation here. To find out how bad it is, I guess we'll run a line in across the back here, and that'll show us just how much of a slope is on this thing. So as you can see here though, guys, we started about 2 blocks height and we're now getting towards 3 and 4 blocks height. So this does have quite a bit of a lean on it, which is going to kind of make a difference to us depending on how we decide we're going to A, water, B, harvest, and C, plant this thing. Got a couple of ideas in my head, not entirely sure which direction to go. We'll have a play and see what works and see what doesn't. I guess it's the only thing that we can do. Okay, right, so idea time. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can do this in a wanna. So basically, I'm going to run this on wheels, and I'm going to use some modded wheels, so they're going to be like 9x1, so we're going to get quite a bit of height, in the hope that the height is going to give us enough to kind of compensate for the angle. This means I am going to be running 85 water cannons though, so I need to work out how we're going to do this. So I'm literally just going to run one long old line the entire length of my farm, and then we're going to whack a water cannon on in front of kind of each row of plots. And then obviously I'm going to probably have to put some water chests on, just so that we've got some storage for the water on this machine, rather than trying to pipe directly to the water cannons individually, because I need a way to get the water from the chest into the cannon. So I need an actual physical connection there so that I can run a connection tool to connect the water cannon to its water source. So those 2 tanks that we built on the land, we might be getting rid of, and we might just incorporate them on this machine instead. But these are the size of the wheels that we're going to be using, as you can see. And this is kind of, like I say, it's going to keep us upright. It's going to keep us level and balanced. But we'll see how it works out. I hope this works. I hope this works. Okay, so we're playing for ease now. So by that, I'm literally going to throw down 1 water cannon per row. So we're going to have, obviously, we're going to have 85 water cannons. I say for ease because otherwise we could use less water cannons. We'll just have to work out angles and bearings and pistons and stuff like that. I don't really fancy doing that. This plot is going to be huge. I just want it to work. First of all, work. And then if it does work, then we can think about trying to make it a little bit more swanky and a bit neater or a bit more fancy. But I just want to get the basics sorted first. That's why I'm going for water, because it's literally one simple element that we can deal with. It's just water cannons, a trigger, and water. Should be an easy enough system to deliver with. Should be. So that's 85 water cannons. Now all we need to do is connect these up to water and a trigger source. I am going to run this off of a sensor that's going to be on one of the edges looking down at a mark. I just think that'll be the easiest way. So just got to work out how to fill these things up with water and set them off basically, which using the mods should be pretty good, because we can run there's a special adapter that you can put on a chest, so you can use a normal chest as a water tank. So it's going to make my life a little bit easier because we can put these monster chests on. So just ran a couple more wheels on this thing just to give it a little bit more balance. So we'll just take it off the lift, and because we've got the chests on it, it's front heavy, so we've got to tweak this. We've got to stand this up and put these chests near the back so it actually stays on the ground. Sometimes when you're trying to think about some things, you forget about other things. So I'll just do this and we'll come back to it and see how it works. So we turn the chests so they're long ways around, just put the weight more at the back, and we're just going along putting these little things on now. This is a modded part that makes turning a chest into a water chest very easy. Basically, this is what will allow me to connect my water cannons to the chest and allow the normal chest, these big old things, to pump water. So I guess all that's left to do is to try and connect 85 water cannons up to these devices and see where we get to. I've got no idea if they have a connection limit. I guess we're going to find out. So that, my friends, is 85 water cannons connected to 4 chests. No, they are not connected equally. It will help me work out if there is any indiscrepancies or whatever you want to call it, where there's not enough water or whatever else to work it out doing it this way. Not ideal, but we'll see how it goes. Next, propulsion. Now, in order to make this thing move, first of all, I'm going to look see if I can run it off a controller. I don't know how it'll work, but given the size of the wheels and the distance we've got to go, I know that you can do 10 full 360-degree revolutions of a bearing. So bearing in mind that our wheels are 9, I don't think the maths works out. But I'll try this and have a look, see how it goes. The reason why I want to do this is because this is how I built one of my original harvesters. Basically, if you turn a controller on, it'll go all the way to the end, and if you turn it off, it will come back. So just by using a switch, I'll be able to get it to go down and back, if it can go far enough. If it can't go far enough, I obviously will have to look at using a different method, potentially some sort of engine, and using the Fant mods kind of magical controller that they've got, where you can put 2 inputs in, so one will make the motor go forwards and one will make the motor go backwards. Just want to see where this goes and see how it ends up first, though. Don't know, not holding out much hope, but all we can do is try, right? So we've got to go in here and we'll just waz everything up to 360 degrees and yeah, see where it gets us in the end of it. So now we have all the values correctly inputted. Silly me, I put the first mock on. We're just going to stick a switch on this and then we're just going to turn it on. And the way that this works is the wheels will stay on the outside wall of the farm. In theory, keeping it nice and straight and square. So this is just going to set me a distance and it'll let me know just exactly how far one controller will run this thing. As you can see here, look, this is what I mean about the wheels being on the outside of the wall. So in theory, this is what keeps it nice and straight. We'll just let it run and it'll run until it gets to the end of its controller. Now, it's not going to reach the end. I know that much. I just don't know how far down it will go. Because if it can get most of the way, it's pretty good. But we'll just have to have a look-see and then kind of adjust to suit. It's getting a lot further than I thought, but this is what's helped with the size of the wheels. Obviously, having a big wheel means that we can go further on one rotation. So it's doing all right for itself, actually. It's got a lot further than I was anticipating. And then it stops. Okay, so that's basically telling me that on one controller, we're not going to do the entire field. So we are going to have to do it kind of a logic and electric motor, maybe. And just see what we can bring with that. Okay, so what we've got here now, we've got an electric motor set up with one of these new controllers in the mod pack. This controller takes 2 inputs, which means I can run a memory bit in it to send it forwards, and then have a trigger to cancel this memory bit, but like activate another one to bring it backwards. So that's the idea here. So I'm going to set up a memory bit here onto like a switch or a button, which will tell the motor to go forwards, and then I've got a sensor set up on my right hand side edge that will detect when it's at the end. That sensor will cancel this memory bit and set up another one, and that second one will be a secondary input to this fancy controller, which will then create the motor to come backwards. And then obviously I'll have the sensor set up so that when it's back here, it will stop all memory bits and it will shut down the motor. I love this little controller, actually. It's pretty good. All you need to do to make the second input is just change the color of your second input, and you'll see me here, I'll spray it a little bit of a black color or something just to change it. So this is going to be our secondary input. It's literally that simple. It's based apparently like on a similar way that the seat works, I think it was, or something like that. But yeah, so I'm trying to spray this old thing here, but obviously trying to get in is a little bit delicate. But this is the sensor that's going to cancel the memory bit for forwards and put us into a reverse mode, hopefully. So that's how it should go anyway. This sensor doesn't actually need to be painted black, by the way. This is just what I'm doing just to kind of color coordinate my own brain to try and work out which sort of sections are doing what. So if I can keep certain things a certain color, then if something goes wrong, I can hopefully identify which section of stuff that it is. But you don't need to make the actual sensor itself black. It's just literally the input to the controller that needs to be black. And for me, that's just that one OR gate, the logic gate. But I keep the whole system black so we can, yeah, see what goes wrong. So hopefully everything is set up. We've got some power into the engine, we've got our batteries in there, just flick the switch and it goes a little bit crazy. We are set on the slowest, so we will just give this a little bit of a notch up to see how well it goes. It seems to go alright actually. It's a little bit potentially slower than the controller, but we seem to have a little bit of a sticky wheel down here. That's because we're trying to get one going the wrong way, which isn't going to help anything. We'll just double check everybody. Looks like it's going a little bit better this time. Wheels are moving in the right direction at least. So that is a good thing. So it's moving. It's working. I don't like that. That wheel looks like it's not probably got enough weight on it. Seems to be spinning a little bit. Not enough traction. But for the most part, this is good. We can put the speed all the way up. But it doesn't seem to have too much of an impact in it just yet. And then all of a sudden it just yeets out of here. So something's a bit iffy there. Potentially it's the friction between the wheels and the blocks. And also my block to detect the sensor at the end was not high enough. The entire machine's gone over the top of it. So a little bit of tweaking to be done, but we're hopeful. I won't lie, we had a few teething issues, but we've sort of sorted it now. So we've got our massive reset button and we've got a go button. The reset button just kind of resets all memory bits and the go button will just go. We'll make sure this thing's topped up with batteries and we'll stay here and hopefully it'll work. We had a bit of problem with it kind of smashing through and over going at the end, down at the bottom. But hopefully we've sorted that now. So it should find the wall, stop itself from going, and then it should return. Yeah, it's made it to the bottom. It's clanged itself on the wall and it's on the way back up. But that's good. So we've got forward and reverse momentum for this thing in a way that works, though this does seem to come flying back quite heavy. We're going to have a look at putting a wall or something in just to stop this overshooting. It's carrying a lot of momentum and we just need to slow it down. But yeah, I'm quite happy with it so far. I'm quite happy with it. I'll tweak it and then we'll get the water flowing and see how it waters. So in order to set these pumps off, we're going to use a sensor and we're going to set the colour to black and we're going to paint the middle block of each kind of bloop and bloop, like you get the idea. So it's going to be black, so obviously the sensor will see this, trigger the water pump, and hopefully and in theory we will start watering the crops. Again, do not know if there are sort of a connections limit for the sensors or anything like that. The only way to find out is to try it. I know a lot of people will still by this point be like, oh, but he's not doing it in vanilla, it doesn't count. By all means, go do it in vanilla, spend all your resources. Look at it this way, I'm trying to iron out any issues that I might face. And you guys might face too. Can't lie, I wish there was an easier way to see where you've connected stuff to, where you haven't. Because when you've got 85 things all in a row coming from pretty much the same place, it's really difficult to see which ones you connected and which ones you haven't. The water splashing around that you can hear is part of a fly command. I just got really tired of running backwards and forwards, so with fly it just makes me a little bit quicker. So that's the water thing that's going on there. Don't worry about it too much, it's part of the mod. But yeah, connection tools when you've got a lot of stuff gets really crowded. Really difficult to see what you're connecting. Wish they kind of do something there. Don't know what they can do, but something needs to be changed. Maybe not make so much stuff that's this big, I guess. First test run, it's set up to be super fast. Not entirely sure how it'll go, but let's have a look-see. Well, that looked good. It looked like it did the entire first row. And, yeah, then it's just not doing anything. So we've got to tweak this. Obviously, this is just a bit of a look-see, because in the ideal world, I want to see how fast I can make this go. Seems at top speed might not be the way forward. So we'll just have a little bit of a tweak and see what we can come up with. Though I do find it slightly strange that certain pumps are firing. It means that the sensor is working, but why everything else isn't, I don't know. Maybe there is a limit after all. But surely it's got to be more than, like, what, 6 or 8? Question for all the smart people if you're still here. I've turned down the speed of the engine, look. Doesn't seem to fire the middle set. Next row. Boom. Seems to fire the whole lot. I don't know what's going on, because the sensor is clearly picking up the block, and it is working. It seems to be very speed specific. But I can't work out why. All the chests are still full of water. The sensor's clearly picking up and working. But for whatever reason, if we go like one notch above fast, it seems to miss everything. Bring it back down that notch, and it seems to be getting most places now. It still misses this set. Not entirely sure why it's missing this set, because everything's connected. But it's just a bit fishy. There seems to be like a couple of banks here and there that I know are connected, but for whatever reason it doesn't want to get it. Whether or not it's the bounce on the sensor, I don't know. So we'll just whack this up so it'll definitely detect it. And and still it's not firing. Potentially there is a limit for connections to either the sensor or connections to the water pumps themselves. I'll add another chest, so we basically end up with like 17 water pumps connected to each chest, so that it should be alright with the water. But honestly, I don't know. This has turned out to be a little bit trickier than I thought it would be. So I've just gone over and sort of reshuffled how things are connecting, and it seems to make a difference. However, the thing that makes the most difference is the speed, which is a little bit disappointing because I wanted to make something that could just like yeet down here so that it could water and harvest really quick and potentially get everything grown in a day, or, you know, in that sort of time scale. But the issue that I'm having is if I turn the speed up just ever so slightly on the electric motor, for whatever reason, and I do not understand how or why, a certain number of these water cannons just won't fire when it's a little bit quicker. I don't get it. I don't understand it. We might have to stick with it being dead slow. For whatever reason, it's missing these two. But for whatever reason, we might have to stick with it being dead slow because, like I say, as soon as we turn up the speed, things just don't activate like you'd expect them to. And I have no idea why. It works when it's slower. The sensor detects everything. There's plenty of water in the pots. I've got no idea. This is actually more of a headache than I first thought it to be when I set out to do this. I know it's a little bit disappointing and not quite where we wanted to get it, but I think I'll leave it here. I do have a way that we can make this thing water, even if it is a little bit slow. So I guess we should be happy that we can water it, and then we'll go from here. So this thing might need a little bit of tweaking, because we're going to have to look at planting, and we're going to have to look at harvesting as well. So I'm not entirely sure how it'll look when it's finished. But yeah, I appreciate you guys dropping by and sticking out for this video. It's been an interesting one. Do you think you'd be able to do it? Or do you think you'd be able to do it a little bit different and quicker? Let me know in the comments. Let me know your ideas, because I'm open to anything right now. I expected this to be kind of pretty smooth sailing and straightforward and easy, but it turned out not to be so. Anyway guys, I'll get on with this and see where we come out at the end of it all. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again. Take it easy guys. Bye for now. Bye guys!